Do not spoil.
Isaiah is here.
Yes.
And so this is cool.
We've got a lot to talk about from the New York political scene.
So
because
for
a lot's
people that
going
don't know
on.
who this is and what he's running for.
Yes. So we have in the studio Isaiah James, who is from who's from where I'm from. Well, I was actually born in Brooklyn. And yeah, well, Brooklyn in the house. That's what I'm talking about. So we obviously want to talk about the changing of the guard, if you will. And if there is a changing of the guard anywhere in the United States right now politically, it is in New York City. AOC definitely changed the game. And now we have a completely unique situation where you have multiple progressives running in many different areas. They were ultimately able to get two significant flips. Obviously, the biggest one being Jamal Bowman in New York's, is it 15th or I think it's 6th, or is it 16th? 16th. So we were
Mondaire Jones.
And so,
also that.
And Mondaire Jones
also
out in West.
that.
15, Richie Torres.
And Richie Torres, who is
New York is, we're so far behind.
We are.
New York sent 3 more progressives to the House. I mean, listen, New York is carrying the rest of the country. We're sending all the progressives.
Isaiah, isn't the saying, so goes New York, so goes the rest of the country? So
so goes the working class, so goes the rest of the country.
And what about the working class? We don't have a party for them. So that's what we're trying to create.
We're trying to change that right now. So Isaiah, obviously there's a lot of great to see you again, by the way. And
thank you for both of you guys for having me here. I haven't seen Jen. I haven't spoken to Jen. It's been like 6 months. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it's
a long time. Well, so whenever we did a panel, like we were on a panel,
but, I mean, once the pandemic hit, we were both so deep in our races. And then I honestly, after my first race, I just took some months off. I just stopped all social media. I needed a detox. So, but I'm back.
That's really nice. That's nice. I'm still taking off. That's the beauty of this. It's sort of, it's sort of like when everybody I know had kids 2 years apart. And I remember when my older was 2, there was no way I was having a newborn that quickly. Like my kids are 6 years apart. So like when I see people jumping back in quickly, it's like, oh my God, I'm still recouping.
Well, speaking of kids, nice segue.
Tell us a little bit about
no, Isaiah, you wanted to say something?
Well, yeah, when she said kids, I want to let everybody know, first of all, my wife is a first grade teacher. That's why it looks like I'm sitting in a first grade classroom, because
I love it.
Since the pandemic has hit, my wife's been teaching from home remotely. She teaches her students, and I've done all my interviews sitting at our dinner table, which I'm at right now. And behind me is her quote of the day and all her phonics words and all that stuff. So she's literally a first grade teacher. So that's why it looks like we're sitting in a first grade classroom. But I guarantee you, it's my living room.
That's so cute. I just thought it was a really good backdrop.
I agree.
You got a reading workshop, writing workshop, math.
I just thought you were really pushing the education policy really hard.
I am, but I mean, I have a reason to push it. When I tell people I'm passionate about this stuff, I hear the problems that teachers have every day from my wife. And I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago. Not many people get to see what teachers do unless you work in education, especially teachers of lower grades, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I've been witness to it now for the last 6 months of how much time and dedication and effort my wife puts into teaching 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds. It is unbelievable. I couldn't do it. I honestly couldn't do it. Teachers deserve so much more than we give them.
Oh, yeah. No, you couldn't pay me. That's the irony. It could be the highest paying job in the world, and I still wouldn't do that.
15, 6-year-olds?
I didn't even really like my own that much. I want to be in a whole classroom of someone else's kids.
Teachers and nurses are the 2 most underappreciated and undervalued professions.
Because they're female-led professions historically.
And they're also the most, and they're as important as any that we have. And talk about essential work. I mean, it doesn't get much more essential than that. So obviously there is a lot going on in New York right now. Yeah. You have the mayoral race, which is heating up. Obviously Andrew Yang is, he continues to surprise. We also obviously think very highly of Diana Morales. I certainly hope that the 2 of them could potentially get together, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with ranked choice voting. So certainly would like to get your thoughts on the mayoral race and also what's going on right now with Governor Cuomo, because it seems to me that what he's doing and this what I would consider to be a pretty big scandal going on right now.
Yeah.
With the nursing homes. What's it like in New York City on the ground with the mayoral race, as well as what's going on with Governor Cuomo?
Well, it's not just the mayoral race. You know, like I live in Brooklyn, so there's city council races, there's assembly district races. We have the mayoral race and Diana Morales is my candidate who I personally back. And then, like you said, the scandal with Cuomo, it just came out in the news. And this is preliminary reporting, so you know everybody's quick to jump on it. But I want to see if these numbers are real. But it looks like that the numbers for coronavirus deaths were underreported grossly, you know, to the federal government, and they did that so that these numbers wouldn't be used against them. I don't know how these numbers would be used against you. Everybody was dying from the coronavirus. It's a pandemic. People are still dying. Yep. But maybe to shine a better light on New York City or New York State, I don't know. But if it is true, then this man deserves to go to jail. I mean, what the hell? I mean, that's what that is, if that is true. But on the ground right now, people, especially since after January 6th, I think people are more fired up for the Democratic side to actually produce for working class and poor people. I mean, the way to guarantee that Republicans win the Senate next go around is to renege on all the promises that Democrats made. If they do that, Republicans will easily pick up the Senate again because the math and the map is in their favor. Yep. So the mood is such that people are like, wait a minute, now we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House. Let's push for these things, bold things, not radical things, because the things we're talking about aren't radical. No. You know, let's not take the moniker of the corporate class and attach it to ourselves. It's not radical to want teachers to have a living wage. It's not radical to want housing for the homeless. It's not radical to say, let's stop spending money on bombs and bullets and start spending money on books and backpacks. These things aren't radical. And people are saying that we need to be bold and dynamic and assertive and demanding that our government gives us these things, because we can't wish anymore. We can't hope anymore. We can't pray anymore. We have to demand, damn it, because the other side, we just saw yesterday or the day before, excuse me, they don't care about insurrection. They don't care about treason. They don't give a damn. Obviously, we saw there was only, 7 Republicans that joined. So we know that other side is not going to do anything to help the majority of this country. So we are the last life raft on the Democratic side. So let us start acting like the people we purport to be.
Yeah, I agree. I always say that. Like, we don't have a Labor Party, and that's what we really need in this country is a Labor Party. I don't understand. Really, the Democrats are just Republican light.
I call them low-calorie Republicans.
Low-cal. That's good.
Diet.
It's true, but I mean, it's, you know, it's the same things are happening. The major policies are all the same. They just say it more politically correct, and they're nicer about LGBTQ issues. But that's basically it.
I'll give you an example, right? The House, symbolically, when Republicans were in charge, the Republicans controlled the Senate and the White House a few months ago, the House passed the decriminalization of marijuana bill. They passed that, right? 4 or 5 months ago. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, knew Joe Biden was coming into office, knew that he won. We all knew he won the election. Imagine how many people would not be in jail right now if Joe Biden had signed that bill on day one, decriminalizing marijuana at the federal level. There have been people who have been arrested after Joe Biden has been sworn into office for marijuana right now, who are sitting in a jail cell right now. If he had signed that bill into law, which we know the House just voted and said they wanted to do it, we know the Senate would do it. So what's holding her back from bringing that up? That's what I'm talking about. Is not doing these things with symbolism and speaking from a pseudo-sanctimonious lectern like, hey, we're right, we're Democrats. We have to actually start producing for people, you know, or we're not going to have any country. Take all this stuff away. Climate change is staring us right in the face. You talk about whatever party you want to. If we don't get this right, then there are going to be 50 million climate refugees just in North America alone.
Yeah, we're going to have to come to New York from Florida.
I mean, it's cold as hell up here. It's like the last 2 weeks, we got 3 feet of snow in the city. You want to come up here? I want to go to Tropical Island.
I don't remember the last time it snowed so much in the city.
Oh, it snowed. I got pictures of my wife's car.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time since that. I mean, it's been a while since that happened.
Well, we're seeing what happened in the central part of the country, this polar vortex, which is just insanely dangerous. And because we have not prioritized a clean energy jobs infrastructure bill over the past decade, there has already been talks about the, we have a grade of a D+ by the
Army Corps of Engineers.
Army Corps of Engineers. So a lot of the infrastructure that is in place that is severely outdated is subject to failing, and the prospect of people freezing to death is a very real thing. I can't think of a bigger reason why we need to push for progressive representation right now. So with that said, please share with the audience about, this is going to be your second run in New York's 9th, and please share with the audience, because Representative Clark is obviously not as well known as Representative Jeffries or Representative Nadler, and obviously beforehand Representative Engel and Crowley. So if you can share with the audience, your platform, what you're fighting for, and obviously why
a little bit about your district,
and
because I mean, we know Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is fairly large and diverse.
Well, Isaiah will tell you he's got he will be representing.
I mean, my
the
people
heart.
are from Brooklyn. My family.
Well, literally, this is the heart of Brooklyn. If you look on a map, it's right in the middle, central Brooklyn. It encompasses, for those folks who know, areas like Sheepshead Bay, Crown Heights, Flatbush, East Flatbush, Prospect Park, Park Slope, PLG. So it's literally in the center of Brooklyn. We have a amalgamation of folks from all over the world, especially the Caribbean diaspora and the African diaspora. This community is over 50% African American.
Right.
And the median income is a little bit around $50,000, but there are concentrated pockets of wealth where there are $4 or $5 million homes. Oh. And literally you can go a few blocks down the street and see some of the worst New York City public housing anywhere in the city. And that's not done on accident. That's done on purpose. You can't have that much of a gulf between, income inequality and educational outlooks and health outlooks unless it's done on purpose. And my representative is 2018, 2020, she took 93% of her donations from corporate PACs and big dollar donors, 93%. And you said she's not that well known. That's a damn shame. There are 535 members of Congress. That's it. Everybody should know who you are. You should be standing up there, beating the drums and pounding your chest, talking about the problems, what's going on in your community. Imagine if instead of, walking around courting big donors, you held the House floor and demanded that New York City be given the $60 billion it needs for public housing. Instead of, going to back rooms and doing deals in smoke-filled rooms, imagine if you took the House floor and demanded that police cars and these damn police towers be taken off the corners in our neighborhoods, and that we defund police forces all over this country from federal dollars and use that money to have educational programs and after-school programs and job placement programs. If you criminalize poverty, you make my existence as a human being criminal. You've already criminalized blackness in this country. That's why even with a suit and a tie on, I can walk out of my front door as a 6'8" black man and still look like the suspect because you criminalized blackness. And now
you're 6'8"?
Yeah, I'm 6'8".
Oh my God. I had no idea you were that tall. I met you in person. Wow.
I remember you were tall. I don't remember you that tall.
I'm 6'8". It's the reason why.
Well, I would be scared of you too.
It's the reason why I can put on a uniform, my uniform from the Army, and folks will shake my hand. But if I'm wearing my hoodie out the street, they'll cross the street. So we need a representative who is going to stand up for the people. You can't be firefighter and arsonist at the same time. A lot of these corporate Democrats say they're for these things, but we're never going to defeat that machine by taking that machine's money. So until we divorce this money from our politics, and until we get a better quality of representative into Congress, all of this stuff we're talking about and our echo chamber of pain and misery and sorrow is never going to burst through. Because you and I probably agree on pretty much the same thing. We might not agree how to get there, but we both agree that healthcare is a human right. We both agree that, police shouldn't shoot black people. We both agree that the military-industrial complex has gotten out of control. But we're never going to be able to solve these problems if we don't have people who are elected in government willing to bring these problems to the forefront.
So my question, Isaiah, and I think this is very important because, one of the things that you know, we've learned obviously down here with Wasserman Schultz and how she controls Broward, and the same was true for Crowley and the way he controlled Queens. Is Representative Clark more or less the leader of the Brooklyn machine? Is that the best way you would describe, you know, her power vacuum? She's been obviously in office in Congress for 14 years and has been representing this congressional district from the redistricting for the past 8 years. Like I said, she's kind of an under the radar representative. You know, even somebody like, you know, Carolyn Maloney's even more known because of her race. But what can you share with us in terms of the dynamic, in terms of the way she governs, and as far as the Brooklyn political machine as it stands?
Well, the Brooklyn political machine is one of the oldest in the country. This is old politics up here. This is Tammany Hall. This is, you know, yeah, the robber barons and all that stuff. That's what this is. And folks, I mean, this is like one of the oldest political machines in the country. And yes, her mother, Dr. Una Clark, was one of the first, I think the first woman on city council. And the daughter, Yvette Clark, Congresswoman Clark, inherited her mother's city council seat. Then after that, she worked for the congressman that she later replaced, Congressman Major Owens. So her entire life has been politics, and the political machine. Yes, the Clark family runs the political machine in Central Brooklyn. There might be other players, but they're one of the major players in there. And, you know, it's political suicide if you want to challenge them. But I've always said I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant. So what can you do to me that hasn't already been done to me in life? I've been shot, been blown up. I have hearing aids because my hearing was blown out from a damn IED. So I'm not scared to go up against anybody. I'm not scared to challenge the status quo, because what she's been doing obviously hasn't been working, because by every measurable metric, Black people in this community, working people in this community, are doing worse than when she took office. So by definition, you are a failure. You have not done the things that needed to be done. Housing, we live in the epicenter of gentrification in this neighborhood. It's $2,700 for a 2-bedroom apartment. I just told you a minute ago, the average income is $50,000. So if you can get a 2-bedroom, you are spending 70% of your income just on rent. That's how crazy it is. And it's almost bang your head against the wall, maddening that nobody is talking about this, let alone my representative.
Yeah, I want to just go back to something you said that I found really interesting and something I never really thought of before. But when you said about how we don't know who your representative is, that is pathetic. Yeah. Why we know the representatives that are actually fighting for what they believe in, even if it's not what we agree with. We know who those people are. So when we don't know who someone is, that means they're just sliding by as placeholders, doing absolutely nothing and just keeping things the way they are.
Think about it. Like this, she represents 775,000 people. That's how big our congressional district is. Like I said, there are 535 members. It's not like there's 50,000 of you and you can be excused for, oh, I don't know who that person is. There's 535. And you're representing New York and Brooklyn. This is Brooklyn. It's known all over the world. People should know exactly who you are and what you stand for, but they don't, because you're just skating by, coasting by, collecting a paycheck and not doing the work.
So what, and I should know this about you and I don't, what is your job prior? Because I know you're not a politician.
No.
We see, I mean, the definition of what generational change is transforming politics into service. So, but what were you doing prior to getting involved in the political scene?
Well, prior to running for office, I was in the military. So I did almost a decade in the military. I just turned 34. So folks think I'm a lot old. Yeah, folks think I'm like 40, 42. I just turned 34. So prior to that, I was in the military. And then I got out of the military and I started working with veterans who were having the same issues that I was having, you know, mental health issues and struggling to cope and readjust to society. I did that for a while, and then I moved on to work with veterans at the college. That's my alma mater, my undergrad alma mater at Brooklyn College, doing pretty much the same thing. And then I got into housing organizing and for housing rights, around housing rights. And then that led me to meet with Congresswoman Clark. And that led me to talk to her about these salient issues that are affecting the community. And that led me to run against her a year and a half ago, 2 years now. And that's leading me to run again.
Yeah, that's the most organic possible way for people to represent their communities. And I think that's so important. This is something I talk about a lot, is that normally when you see a politician, it's this top-down approach to politics. It's, I want that job, and now I'm going to sell myself to everybody in this community to vote for me for that job. When it should be somebody who's coming up from that community as a voice for that community and recognizes that you guys could do a lot better. And so to me, that's the most organic, best possible way you can get a representative. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
I literally Googled how to run for Congress. I had no idea. I'm just a regular person. Like, I literally...
regular person.
I sat down and I Googled it and I watched some YouTube videos and I was like, all right, I can figure this out. You know what I mean? And I have education and stuff. My undergrad is in political science. I went to graduate school for freaking public policy. I still didn't know how to run for Congress and all the barriers you had to jump through. So I was like, I figured I could figure it out. And they make it very hard for the lay person to do it, but you can do it.
Yeah, I always recognize that that was by design. I mean, there are so many things, whether it's the fact that how expensive it is that we don't have publicly financed elections, whether it's how much time it takes, whether our campaigns are like 2 years long and most people can't give up their job to do it. All of these things are absolutely intentional to keep regular people from having a voice. I mean, if it were up to me, we would have 3-month election cycles and publicly financed elections, and that would be that. Because
it was so easy.
I know. And we have the most expensive. If we don't get enough signatures, Florida is second most expensive to Arkansas. It's like $10,400 for us to get on a ballot.
Just to get on the ballot?
Just to get on the ballot.
And
for a congressional seat.
You used to be able to get ballot signatures from the entire state. Debbie made sure that you can only get it from within the congressional district.
So we have to collect the amount we need to. And of course, with COVID, that was just, it wasn't happening. So we had to cough up $10,400 just to get on the ballot.
Wow.
It really is a term of public service. And when it's a term of public service, you have to be answering to your constituents. If you have to change the rules, it means you're not good at your job. I just don't know mentally how, I don't care how good of a job it is. If you know you're doing a bad job, I don't know how people are able to rationalize it. But again, I still think there's this one unifying issue that everybody agrees with across all political spectrums, and that is corporate special interest money. That is the unifying issue, should be the unifying issue for every political stripe in this country. If you take the dirty money from the most nefarious people in society, for example, if you're any one of those people who ran for office or are currently in office that was taking money from Amazon to basically bring low-paying jobs into New York City, then you're part of the problem. If you're not fighting for union jobs, if you're not fighting for a living wage, if you're not fighting for universal health care, it's like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. Because at this point, like you say, Jen, you're arguing with a flat earther.
Yeah, I always say that. Like, I won't even debate universal health care anymore with anybody. I'm done with that. I might as well debate a flat earther, you know, or somebody like that. That's just not even something worth debating anymore. We're just at a point now where this just has to happen.
I'm so glad you brought up Amazon. I want folks out there to Google Yvette Clarke in the Amazon letter. She was one of all of the New York City delegation, including the mayor, not AOC, obviously, signed the letter urging Amazon to move to Long Island City. She was part of that. And
course.
And she takes more money from Amazon than any member of Congress in New York City. Anyone.
And that's why she was so adamant about them coming there.
Aha. Yeah. So now we see the root of all our problems.
Well, just like
money out of politics.
Well, just like you wonder why Nancy Pelosi doesn't push the decriminalization of marijuana, I would say it has a lot more to do with big pharma than anything else. I mean, that's who they all answer to.
And listen, if the United States prison population was a state, we'd be like the 13th largest state in the nation. Think about that. If the prison population was, there's more people in prison than there are people in North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, any of those states, Maine, Delaware. That's how big our prison population is. And most of them, the majority of them are there for nonviolent drug offenses.
Yeah.
So it's not just big pharma. The prison industrial complex is a leviathan, just like the pharma industry, just like the military industrial complex. When you not democratize, excuse me, but when you commercialize something and when you make it a for-profit model, that's what capitalism is. It needs things to capitalize off of. It needs to sustain itself. And the thing that the prison complex eats off of is the poor, is the working, is the downtrodden. It's really hard to arrest a rich person because they can fight back. But it's not very hard to arrest a black kid who jumps a turnstile and has $20 worth of weed in his pocket because he can't fight back. Then the lawyer that they give him, the public defender they give him, is so overworked. They say, here, man, just plead out. Just take the deal. He says, no, I'm not pleading out. Then he's Khalif Browder. He sits in Rikers for 2.5 years and commits suicide when he gets out. That's how the system is. It's not broken, but it works pretty damn well at keeping poor people and working people trapped in our condition. But that's why I'm running to change that, because the problems that we face aren't going to go away just because I'm tired. I promise you. If you look at the stock market, when it closes at 4, trading goes on after hours. They're still deciding which companies to put under. They're still deciding which 401ks to blow up and destroy. So if they work after hours, we got to work 24 hours because they're not going to stop. So we can't stop.
We are speaking with Isaiah James, who is a former BNC Brand New Congress slate mate of Jen's, and also ran for the United States Congress to represent New York's 9th District, is running again against Representative Yvette Clarke. We are going to take questions from the audience, so if you guys have any, please submit them and we'll bring them along.
You can change the banner thing like
no,
I'll change. To do last time.
I'll change.
Okay.
I'll change.
I don't think you know how.
I want to put the questions up there. Well, you know, statements and stuff, but obviously, we want to also talk about some of the more local races, as you pointed out at the beginning. We did have another one of Jen's slate mates on, former slate mate from BNC, Lindsey Boylan, who was running for Manhattan Borough President. And I believe also Mel Gagarin's wife, Alida, I think is her name. I think she's running for New York's I think she's running for a city council seat as well. So there's definitely a progressive uprising, if you will, that is taking place in New York City. I don't know so much what's going on in the rest of the state, but it certainly seems to me like there are a lot of those local races. So one of the things that I think could be very effective going forward is potentially having a slate of sorts in terms of city council, you know, state reps, things of that nature. Are there any candidates right now, any local races that you want to highlight and are potentially running in sort of a, you know, kind of like a progressive slate, so to speak?
There are a lot of folks, and I have to admit my ignorance on this because I've been so busy with my race. I know Mel, who was also a friend of mine. He's running, his wife's running out in Queens, and there are a lot of folks who are running, but a lot of folks have turned over the idea. So now there's a lot of people running who I don't know, number one. And number two, I'm aggressively progressive, okay? So just because a lot of folks say they're progressive, I need to sit down and have a conversation with you about how we look at the issues before I just say, hey, you know, I want to jump on your slate or jump on your team. Because right now there are people who say they're for Medicare for all. What the hell does that even mean? That term has been co-opted by the insurance companies already. They saw it as a marketing tool. So they, you know, that's the whole access to a pathway towards, move us towards. That's what, so I need to sit down and talk with these folks because I'm single payer healthcare. I am the elimination of private insurance. I have yet to find somebody like, I love my Humana. I love my Aetna. I love my Aflac. They don't care about that. They care about the treatment they receive from their doctors. And they don't like these high ass premiums they have to pay. So before I would jump on any slate, there's a few good people I know who are running, but a lot of them are new people who are new to this. And a lot of people have good ideas. And I'm happy they are running. But we have to be on this because we can't have this unity in this. We can't have, you know, we have to have some basic tenets that we agree on as, you know, people on the left before I could ever, you know, get down with you like that.
You know, you're as real as it gets, my friend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, you literally put your life on the line for our country. So as far as I'm concerned, your opinion does matter a little bit more than a lot of others.
I put my life on the line because I was poor, bro. I'll be honest with you right now.
And that shouldn't be our jobs program.
It shouldn't be.
I know.
But listen,
it should be our labor program.
I got out of high school. I already had PTSD graduating high school, growing up as a poor kid in the hood, seeing my first dead body when I was 8 years old, watching a teenage dude that I knew and I was a little kid, saw him shot on the corner and bleed out in front of me. Growing up poor with no lights, no running water. And both my parents worked. But the system was rigged against them 30 years ago when I was a child. So I already had PTSD coming out of high school. I wasn't mentally prepared to go to school. I have friends right now who I went to high school with are sitting in jail for 25 years to life. No joke, right now. So my best bet was, you know what, let me get that. The recruiter comes around and says, hey, we'll give you housing, we'll give you education, give you a steady paycheck, you get status in society, give you a new uniform and healthcare, and you'll travel the world. What was a kid from the hood supposed to say? Nah, man, I want to stay right here where people are, where there's crack and old Tylenol bottles under the basketball, under the bench in the park. No. So I joined the Army because I was poor. And then once you go over to a poor country and you see people who look exactly like you, and you're like, well, damn, they told me this person hated me. That's what you amped me up to kill for when basic training. When I get over there and I saw the same little kids that look like my brothers and sisters and the same people who are just hardworking people, I was like, wait a minute. These people did nothing to me. They did nothing to America. I promise you, the goat farmer in Maywand, Iraq, or Maywand, Afghanistan, or Kabul, Afghanistan has no beef with you, doesn't even know you exist. This is corporations doing this stuff. And once you see that sausage made from the outside, once you see how America is viewed by the rest of the world, especially a country that's being occupied, you can never unsee that. So I have to be real about it. I'm proud of what my service. I'm proud of the friends that I made when I was serving, but I want to be the last generation to have to do what the hell I have to do. Let's make a better world for, you know, my nephews and nieces and my son or daughter when they get here, so they don't have to go overseas just to get a college education.
Yeah, I would have actually said, wouldn't we have been better off if we offered you all of that they offered you to recruit you for you to go to college? You know,
yeah, if it was
we're going to pay you, we're going to give you housing, you're going to get food, it'll be great, you'll get to travel, and all you have to do is be a good student and like do your work. Like, can you imagine?
Well, you mean like Germany, France, Japan, South Korea, Canada? Although I got a funny story. I was stationed in Germany for a few years, and meeting, I was 23, 24, talking to young Germans. They're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in the Army." What are you going to do when you get out? Oh, I want to get education. Oh, our country sends us to school for free. They even pay us a stipend to go to school. I was like, how ironic is that? I'm in your damn country right now trying to earn money to go to school back in the States. And in this country, they send you to school for free. I was like, ain't that something?
Yeah.
That always stuck with me.
Yeah. So we have a question. Do you want to?
Yeah, we definitely have a few questions.
Fire away.
But
okay.
As you know, whether it's Park Slope, whether it's Williamsburg, whether it's Greenpoint, gentrification, particularly in Brooklyn, is a huge problem. Huge, as Bernie would say. So if you can shed some light, as Mr. Rob Furlong has asked, what does gentrification look like in your district?
Oh, man. Gentrification looks like the people, this was a majority, it's still majority Black, but this community was built in large part by the Caribbean diaspora. My father came right here to Central Brooklyn. My father came to a few blocks away from where I live now in 1970 from Jamaica and helped build this community. Gentrification looks like developers pushing out the poor Black people to the margins and off the map, buying up whole swaths of neighborhoods, building them up, raising the prices on them that make them totally unaffordable for the people who built these communities and invested in these communities to begin with. So who can move into those communities? Well, we already know Black and brown people have lower incomes because of systematic racism. So who can move into the previous Black community is only white people who can afford it. And the few smattering of Black people and Hispanic folks that can afford it. But that's why you can go into Bushwick right now in Bed-Stuy and you see the three harbingers of gentrification. You see a Starbucks, you see a Chipotle, and you see a Whole Foods. If those three things come in your neighborhood, they're no longer affordable for working people. And they're right down there by the Barclays Center, right damn now. That's what gentrification looked like. Instead, we need a home ownership program paid for by the federal government for people who make less than $50,000, make less than $80,000, a guaranteed home loan. Because we all know that home ownership is one of the rungs on the ladder of success. That would break the cycle of generational poverty if people could pass down their homes. Because right now, a home in New York City is worth $1 million. Imagine if you had 50,000 more Black people who own their homes in New York City who could pass them down. They could pass down $50 million to their children and grandchildren and break that cycle of generational wealth. Because we all know Black people, and if you're sad of hearing this, then do something about it. Help me.
I'm not sad of hearing it. I think
exactly.
I care.
So
I
ask
support
yourself,
reparations.
why is it easier for a black person to walk into, I can get a $200,000 school loan like that. Go try to get a house loan for the same amount. They're going to turn your ass down. Why is that? They will load you with debt for an education. Go try to get a small business loan. Now you have no idea about college. So you can't say, well, if you can't walk into a bank without a prospectus, you can walk into a classroom as a freshman, green, and not know a damn thing, and be saddled with $250,000 worth of debt. They expect you to pay it because our system is not geared toward working people and low-income people and poor people. It's geared toward the rich to help them stay rich. I'm going off on a tangent, but let's go back to housing. We need federally funded co-op programs. We need community land trust programs. We need New York City Housing Authority is owed $60 billion from the federal government. Why the hell isn't my representative beating the drums about that right now? We have lead in our water. We have lead in our pipes. We have rodent infestations. What is going on? We have the highest rates of asthma, some places in any place in the country, right here down the street from my apartment. Why is that possible? How does that happen in a city with more billionaires than any place in the world? How does that happen when we have a $1.3 trillion GDP in this state? How is that possible? That's possible because the powers that be don't give a damn. Because obviously what we have been doing for the last 50, 60, 100 years has not been working for poor people and low-income people at all.
No, and this is one of the big sticking points with Cuomo that has come up many, many times about the fact that he will not implement a wealth tax. And this is something that is getting a lot of juice in New York. So, one can only hope, and I could tell you personally as a Brooklyn Nets fan and having, been to the Barclays Center a number of times, it's very interesting how, you kind of have to go down one of the scenic route blocks away from the arena to get to the mom and pop restaurants, whether it's, there's like a really good vegan, vegan. There's a great Middle Eastern falafel place that's around the corner from the Barclays Center that I love. But to the person who is getting off of the subway, they don't know about that. The only thing they know is the primary complex and everything. When I tell you the Barclays Center complex is nothing but gentrification and big box stores. That's it. Now, if you venture down a block or two, you will find stuff, but most people will not do that. They will get what's right in front of them. And what's right in front of them, as Isaiah said, Chipotle, Subway. You may have a New York City pizza spot. That's about it. But everything else is big box, nothing unique to New York City. And that, in many ways, is gentrification. And I think
it's assimilation.
It is.
Oh my God, that's so. You know what? That's like here.
For the biggest,
we're strip mall after strip mall, big store, super center after super center,
and nothing.
Mom and pop stores, bodegas are delis are the lifeblood of New York City. If you've ever been to Brooklyn or Queens or Manhattan, certain parts of Manhattan, you will know, like you can walk down the avenue. I live by Flatbush Avenue. And that's where the Barclays Center is at. Once you get down past the library, that's when the gentrification explodes. That's not even mid Brooklyn. That's lower Manhattan. I call that now because those apartments down there out of Barclays, they're crazy expensive. $3,700 a month just to even live there. The people who built that community, as I said, if you grew up there, raised your family there, worked there your whole life, paying taxes, and all these families they're pushed out. They're going down to North Carolina, they're going down to Georgia, they're going to South Carolina, they're going to PA because they can't afford to live in the city anymore. They can't. And we see that the rich folks, when the pandemic hit, they just all bolted and got the hell out of here to their second vacation home. So what happens to the working class? What happens to the poor? You talked about the vegan spot, the mom and pop vegan spot. Is it even there anymore because of the pandemic? Can we even go there anymore? I mean, so it's almost like I'm saying, well, I am saying the same thing over and over because it's like nobody is hearing us. Nobody is doing these things, and we're not reinventing the wheel talking about putting a man on the moon or putting a man on Mars. We're talking about basic things that other countries have already figured out for the last 50 years. Why is it so hard for America to do it? And what's the one determining factor is that we have money in politics. That's it. That's the thing that doesn't allow us to do it. It's not the people. There's black people, white people, gay, straight, lesbian, in all walks of life and in groups of politics. But the thing that separates our country from other countries is the deluge of political cash that is thrown at these politicians by corporate donors and corporations.
I do think that the change is happening. It happens not as quickly as we'd like it to happen, but I do think New York is ground zero in many ways because we have seen the impact that AOC, Jamal, and Mondir have already had on the city. And it's inspired a lot of other people to, pick up the reins and get involved. Obviously, several of the brand new Congress slate mates were from New York City. We have a question here from the Snake Hat who wants to know, because he lives in District 7, which I think that might be Staten Island.
You're looking at me like I know.
I don't know. I think District
7. No, that's Nydia Velasquez. That is that's Sunset Park. That's where my wife was born at.
So that's very close.
Yeah,
and obviously
it's the next district over. The 9th is right here. The 7th starts right there.
So he would like to know how he can get more involved in local politics, and obviously your race is an important one. So I'm going to put your website in here for people to come and sign up. What is your website?
Isaiah for Congress, ISIAH for Congress, FOR Congress.com.
For anybody who wants to sign up and get involved.
Could put a banner.
Mm-hmm.
Any recommendations on how to start? You live in New York 7 that says, I want to be more active in local politics. There are tons of races going on right now. Tons of races. Matter of fact, the Snake Hat, go to Isaiah for Congress on Twitter and DM me. Me and you'll have a conversation tonight.
There you go. You can get like a one-on-one follow-up with your next door neighbor, future congressperson.
Just DM me and we'll talk tonight. Trust me, I know tons of folks who are running that could use your help.
There you go.
I don't think this gets talked about enough, Isaiah, but if you can talk about the importance of coalition building amongst all different candidates at all levels, especially on the progressive left, it seems to me that the biggest problem the left has is not policy, but the ability to cross-pollinate, if you will. There's a lot of egos. There's a lot of rudderless ships. But I do believe the importance of checking one's ego at the door can go a very long way to the sustainability of the movement going forward. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm all for that. Listen, I was in the military, obviously. But you can't have an ego in the military. Somebody might be younger than you, but they outrank you. You know what I mean? So I literally, on my 3rd deployment, my 2nd lieutenant was like 24 years old, fresh out of college. Here I am, like 27, and I'm like, dude, I'm on my 3rd tour. You just got here. But I have to listen to him, because he was put in charge of me. So you have to check your ego at the door. There are a lot of egos on the left. And like I said, as long as we agree on these basic tenets on the left, then we all need to come together. And me, Isaiah James, I don't have all the answers. I know I don't have all the answers. And people who pretend like they do are a detriment to the left. So it's going to take all of us to collectively come together to solve these problems. But we need to have those core basic tenets and core basic beliefs. I can't run as a leftist and say I don't believe in LGBTQIA equality. You're not with me because you deny the existence of my brothers and sisters. You can't be, I'm on the left. Like the Joe Manchins and all these who vote for these coal subjects. They're not on the left. They say they are, but they're not. You're a damn Republican. You're just a moderate Republican. You're not on the left. Sorry. So we have to have those basic tenets. But after that, yes, we need the coalition built. I talk to folks all the time. My DMs on Twitter and Instagram are full of people who ask me, hey, can you speak to this, or can you talk to this, or we would like you to come and sit down and talk with us about this event. Stuff that, that I'm familiar with and I'm not familiar with. But as long as you want to help put your back to the wheel and push us in the right directions, then I'm all for it. We need to get rid of this ego stuff. We need to, like I said, those basic tenets will have us looking at Joe Biden and the president and vice president saying, we demand these certain things. Now, when we get down to the minutia on how do we get single-payer health care, okay, well, let's hash it out. Let's talk. But we need to agree on the tenet that health care is a human right. We need to agree on the tenet that housing is a human right and all these other things that I've listed off over the night. But the importance of coalition building, because Republicans vote, we just saw, they vote together. They're not deviating at all. They don't. 7 of them deviated, and they tried to punish them for standing up for the country. How crazy is that? So we need a unity like that. And we're only going to get that unity if we start doing the work that needs to be done for the people. I can't get mad at Joe Biden if he decriminalizes marijuana. I can't say nothing bad about that. Thank you. Good job. If you, with a stroke of a pen, sign away student debt, I'm not going to criticize him. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I voted for Bernie Sanders. I wrote it in. But I'll be damned if I don't want him to succeed, because what's good for what he does good affects people in my community. So I want him to succeed. I'm all for that. I didn't vote for him for some other reasons, the crime bill and all that other stuff, but we got it. You're here now, you know what I'm saying? Martin Luther King Jr. said, we may have arrived here on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. So we're all in the same boat. So I want the captain of this ship to avoid the icebergs that are income inequality and racial tensions with crazy ass folks and climate change. I want that captain to avoid all those icebergs. So I am rowing in that direction. But if he's not going to avoid them, then we have to take control of the ship and put people in the place who will steer the ship in the right direction. Because every empire before us has fallen. The Romans, the Greeks, the Turks, the Assyrians, the Ottomans, they've all fallen. We're no different. We're only 200 plus years old. So to think that America cannot sink beneath the waves if we don't get our act together is foolish. We have history to show us it can and will happen. And all those icebergs are dead ahead, and we have to start navigating the ship right now or we are screwed.
We had on a week ago a lovely lady named Georgia Davenport, who is from Washington State, and their organization is called Whole Washington, which focuses on bringing single-payer health care at the state level to Washington State. She brought to our attention that New York is attempting to do the same thing. Now, are you familiar with the single-payer movement in New York? And what is, I guess, what you would say the current status as far as that goes? Because I'm thinking we may be at a point now where, obviously, as Jen likes to say, we need all options on the table. We cannot rely on trying to get all these federally elected representatives to start making the moves that we need to make. You know, who I called the leader of the brand new Congress slate when I was in DC with you guys was Cori Bush. There's no question that she sort of rose above. And the fact that not only did she win her seat and ended up voting for Pelosi to stay on as speaker, she came out and was very forthcoming about the fact that, yeah, I need to get federal dollars from my city that's in decay. So I did what I had to do for my community. There is no question that you have to keep all options out there as far as what it's going to take for us to get to single payer healthcare. I do think that the statewide movement, especially in a state like New York, can go very far in terms of putting the necessary pressure on the federal legislators. So what is the current single payer movement look like in New York State?
You're talking about the New York Health Act, which is a bill that the state legislature is trying to get passed, but it would never get signed into law by Cuomo because he's in the pocket of the big money and big corporation. You know what one of the largest pharmaceutical companies is? It's Pfizer. You know where Pfizer is located?
New Jersey.
It is
right?
New Jersey, right?
No, Pfizer. Some of Pfizer's in New York too.
Oh,
they're not going to sign these bills. So you're talking about the New York Health Act. I'm very familiar with it. You know, it's. I don't think it'll be signed into law. I don't know where the bill is now. I don't know if it's stalled in committee. I don't know where it's at right now. But it was a big push about a year ago, last summer. Folks were talking about the New York Health Act. Everything's gone silent since the pandemic, and then over the summer, the racial stuff with George Floyd and all the Black Lives Matter stuff just pushed every piece of legislation to the back burner. And it was all about social and racial justice in New York City. The state legislature can take it back up this time. I don't know if they're going to get it passed. But my only pushback against that would be we don't need 50 separate. Look what happened right now. We have 50 separate healthcare systems in this country. The vaccine rollout is a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare because we have 50 different captains to one ship. It goes back to the metaphor I was talking about from the beginning. Look what happened when we left things up to the states when it came to voting rights, when it came to civil rights, when it came to equality, when it came to marriage, anything that has benefited poor people, working people, and marginalized groups left up to the states does not work. It never works. These things that help have to come from the federal government. People say the federal government is terrible. It is the only mechanism by which we have to guarantee rights to all at the stroke of a pen. It has done monumental things. The last piece of major legislation that the government passed, I'm not talking about the ACA, because that just helped insurance companies.
Yeah.
The single payer option was pulled out of the ACA at the last moment.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about things like the New Deal, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, Loving v. Virginia with, desegregating marriage or allowing black and white folks to get married. Brown versus Board of Education. These monumental things that, legislation has been passed or has been fought for or pushed for by the federal government. They made an actual difference. And the federal government can do bad things too. Look at the crime bill. Look at the vote. Look at the Patriot Act. Look at the National Defense Authorization Act. So that's why it needs that check of we, the people. But I don't think we should have 50 separate, disparate healthcare systems, because we're seeing that doesn't work right now. Even with Obamacare, we're still 40 million people out of work, or 40 million people without insurance, and 40 million people underinsured. Who there's still, medical bankruptcies are some of the highest bankruptcies there were. So leaving it up to the states, we see it doesn't. It never works to advance the equality. Now we might get the New York Health Act in New York City, but I give a damn about people in Jersey too. I care about people in Florida. I care about people in Texas and Louisiana. So if I'm running to represent people in Brooklyn at the federal level, what's good for Central Brooklyn is good for everybody. You can walk down the damn street and run through 50 ethnicities. I can go get Middle Eastern food, Chinese food, Japanese food, Jamaican food, Haitian food, Latvian food, and Serbian food in 2 blocks walking down the street. So everybody's here. Every ethnicity, every income bracket is here. So what I do for these people, fighting and busting my ass to make their lives better, will make everybody's lives better. Because if you're poor in New York, you're poor in Georgia, you're poor in Alabama, you're poor in Mississippi, you're poor in Washington State. It don't matter.
And
poor is poor.
Yeah, Isaiah, you just said it, and now Jen's hungry. So
you just went through a whole list of ethnic foods, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm hungry.
Oh, listen, if you ever come to Flatbush, me and my wife we just ate dinner. I ordered it. Oh, it was so good because our cars are snowed in still right now.
Oh, yeah. So how are they delivering? I guess like
the bike.
No,
delivery
the streets are clear, but the car. New York City has street parking, and when
right. So your car gets bumped in.
Yes, it's, and I'm not shoveling. I already shoveled out about 4 feet of snow from around her car. I've been taking it in day stages. That's how much snow it is. I shovel for like an hour. I'm done for the day. I come back tomorrow. I do it again. Throw salt down. Do it again. So she has a doctor's appointment coming up, and I was like, "Damn, tomorrow I gotta get the rest of that. I gotta finish all the snow. I gotta shovel it off."
Pace yourself.
I am. I'm getting old. I'm 34. Listen.
Hello.
Jen's gonna be 50.
I'm gonna be 50 in May.
What? Really?
Yeah.
You don't look 50 at all. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay, cool.
I know. He's like, damn, that's old. Look at it.
I'm not old.
Damn, that's
old. He thinks you look young. It's maybe a compliment.
I always tell people, listen, I know for Forever 21 is a store. Forever 21 means something different to me because I got a lot of buddies who never made it to 21. I got a lot of buddies who died when they were 21. So they're all going to be Forever 21. Whenever I see that store, it brings up those memories. Age is something that's denied to many people. I am proud to get old. I want to be an old ass fart at 99 years old walking around. I would love that. I have seen so much death and destruction in my day. When I was 21, I was like, I don't want to be old. I'm 34. Man, let me get 90. 90, I'll be cool. Just give me those. I want to be old. You should be proud to be getting older. It means you're learning, you're living life, and you're being blessed. So hell yeah, I want to get old.
Yeah, and that's for a man to say, because men age and get gray, and it looks so distinguished and nice. And when women age and get gray, we look like crones.
Well, this is what you need, Jen. I'm telling you what you need. Something that was instilled in me growing up as a poor kid. It's that I don't give a damn what people say about me.
Oh, yeah.
When I used to have to go, as a poor ethnic kid, going to school with goat meat and in a lunch tote, and all the kids would pick at me. You know what I mean? My dad would fry fish and send me to school. I'm like, I'm 8 years old in elementary school. All the kids eating Lunchables. I'm eating goat head soup because that's what. And then my dad was like, just don't care what they say. So my whole life I was like, you know what? I don't give a damn. Listen, I got I got a few grays in my beard. I want more gray hair. That's dope. I want the Morgan Freeman look.
That's because that looks good on men. But that's exactly my point. It looks good on men.
I've got to
right.
Well, it looks good on women too. If it looks good, that's all that matters.
Hey, look.
It goes a couple of different directions with the grays with women.
Keanu Reeves' girlfriend.
Exactly, which is more like a Miranda Priestley thing, which looks really good and sophisticated and chic, and you rock it. Or there's like old hag, and those are not the. It could go either way. It could go either way. I'm gonna color until it's ridiculous looking.
Pilates and cannabis.
Pilates and cannabis.
I can't do Pilates, and I'm not a big weed smoker. Can't do it. I think I smoked weed one time in my life, and I freaked out. My parents are Rastafarian. So I grew up around weed my entire life. I was
going to say.
Yeah, no, my parents are Rastafarians. So, like, the whole dreads down the back, they smoked weed my entire life. My mom told us all she smoked weed with all of us in her stomach. I was like, what? She's like, every last, and people were like, doesn't that hurt? Listen.
Clearly not.
One of my sisters is a lawyer. The other one's a dentist. The other one has a PhD. My other sister's a professional athlete. My brother's a professional athlete. I'm just a normal everyday dude. So no, I didn't do anything. All of us. I'm not advocating. Talk to your doctor, folks. But I've been around weed my whole life. I smoked weed one time in high school, freaked the hell out, never did it again. I was like,
not for everyone.
But you know what? At the end of the day, and this is the thing, like we were talking about in terms of coalition building, and I say this almost every podcast, there are so many common ground issues for progressives and libertarians, and they need to find that common ground as often as possible, because the more you build that coalition, most of the libertarians I talk to when it comes to the issue of healthcare, they don't want the government to run the healthcare system. And again, single payer healthcare is government funded healthcare.
Yeah, we repeat this regularly.
You want to go to the doctor?
I told you the myth has been out there that Uncle Sam's going to be taking away your healthcare and rationing care and all this stuff, because how else do you scare people? It's remember they said that Social Security was socialism come to America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ask a person on Social Security if they want to give it up. And then they said that Medicare was socialized medicine. It would ruin America. Ask a person on Medicare, you want to give that up and go back to regular paying the insurance premium? Hell no. So they understand once you give these people these things, you can never take it away. And that's why they're fighting tooth and nail to make sure that we don't get it.
Last question. As you know, the mayoral race is heating up. There is definitely going to be a primary against Cuomo. Where do you stand on the economic issues that could have a significant impact, especially on the low-income areas in New York City? Obviously, Diana Morales is excellent. Andrew is, Yang has obviously championed universal basic income. What are your thoughts on issues like UBI and modern monetary theory in regards to, if you've read The Deficit Myth by Stephanie Kelton, excellent book, highly recommend it. And the idea that we do have the money to make life better for the average citizen. So I am curious as to what your thoughts are in what could be the most impactful on New York City, whether it is at the state or federal level.
Well, I don't presume to speak for all of New York City, but I'd be very presumptuous on my part. You asked me about UBI. I am for UBI, obviously. Especially during this pandemic, this is a time that UBI would be so helpful. We're quibbling over 1,400 or 600 or this is 2,000. Imagine if we just had, $2,000 checks going out to the people who need them until this was over. This is no fault of your own. Now, with modern monetary theory, I know about it. I'm not as familiar with it as I should be. I get invited to so many classes on MMT all the time. And there was a class on modern monetary theory when we were in Washington, D.C. And I had to leave. I still haven't gotten to it.
You didn't get to hear.
Nope, I had to leave. So, but just talking about, I'll tell you my thoughts on it. Can we pay for it? Of course we can pay for it. Our GDP is $20 trillion. When you look at the defense budget of the United States of America, when it's all said and done, it's $790 billion. That is more than the top 10 nations combined, 8 of which are our allies. Who are we financing to protect against? The only 2 countries that could possibly think about attacking us are Russia and China. Russia wants to sell their oil to all of our allies. They would never attack us. Their economy would collapse. China is predicated on selling their goods to America. They would never, and the rest of our allies, they would never attack us. Their economy would collapse. So what the hell are we spending this money on? So there's more than enough money out there to afford these programs, which we are talking about. Single-payer healthcare right now in this country would save us $30 trillion, or excuse me, $3 trillion over 10 years.
That's on the and that's on the low end.
That's on the low. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's a conservative estimate.
So imagine $3 trillion over the next 10 years, because we're already paying for people who don't have this health insurance when you go to the hospital. But we need to move away from the for-profit model that charges you $500 for an IV or $200 for a damn aspirin. Because when you say something is for-profit, you're automatically saying that a certain subset of the population cannot participate in it. And when it's something as important as healthcare, education, or housing, or food, that's wrong. I have access to a Ferrari. I'll just never be able to afford one because I can't afford one. So that's a for-profit model. We need to move away from that. So the money is there. If you can find $3 trillion over the next 10 years by moving us from one system to the next, the money is there. If we can find hundreds of billions of dollars by cutting this crazy-ass defense budget, the money is there. If we can find hundreds of billions of dollars by cutting these for-profit prisons and legalizing marijuana and taxing it like every damn thing else, it's $1 billion industry. The money is there. But who controls the people who allocate the money? That's where we have to look.
Yeah. You know what was interesting, and this is just a total side note, but when you talk about the money from legalizing marijuana, when we had Lee Carter on, and he's running for governor of Virginia, and he's a socialist, he's amazing, and he wants to tax the marijuana, and that money goes towards reparations.
Yes, absolutely. I said that last cycle.
Yeah.
But and when folks talk about reparations, we need to be clear on what reparations are, or my opinion of reparations. Because folks ask me all the time, should we give checks to black people? Listen, they already did the math. It would cost over $70 trillion for America to pay back black ancestors of slavery. Because if you compounded all the interest on what 40 acres and a mule actually is worth, that was Field Order 15 that General Tecumseh Sherman was ordered by the Union Army to give the freed slaves those 40 acres and a mule that was never actually done. So that's an actual thing. Field Order number 15, look it up.
Oh, no, I know it's real. Yeah, I know it's real.
40 acres and a mule would be $70 trillion. So what is so America can't pay that. That's almost the market cap of the entire world. So what can America do to actually start to make up for her sins? That means a systematic investment in black communities. That means a systematic investment in HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, which are the breeding ground for black entrepreneurs and black millionaires. That means more loans for small business owners who are black, and especially who are black women who get denied at a higher rate. That means re-enfranchising felons so they can participate in our democracy. That means legalizing marijuana and using the proceeds of marijuana to fund these damn things that I'm talking about and letting these people out of jail who have nonviolent drug offenses. That means America has to have actual skin in the game in her black community so far as we are concerned. Because for 400 years, America has buttressed her white community while disenfranchising her black community. And not just her black community, her brown community, her Latino community, her Hispanic community, her Asian community, anybody who wasn't a rich white landowning male. We just happen to be the largest group after our indigenous brothers and sisters who got wiped out when the colonists first got here. So America, that's what reparations is to me. It's not just giving me a check. Because that's not going to do anything if I don't know what to do with the damn check. And I already told you the math. America can't afford to pay us that much back, but America can afford right now to start making up for those wrongs, the redlining and all the other stuff, and the crime bill. Oh, I didn't vote for Joe Biden in the first place, that she has done in the past.
I know. And I just have to put my disclaimer. Yes, I voted for Joe, and I am the only, and not proud of it, but the only thing I feel comfortable with is that I feel like I at least was in support of the DACA kids, and that there were people whose lives were immediately affected. I mean, I was just harm reduction, but I really am not happy with that choice.
Yeah, no, listen, if you voted for him or not voted, I get it. Trust me.
It wasn't a good choice. Like it was.
That's why I said the lesser of two evils is still evil. It's still evil.
And just so everybody,
folks need to go out there and watch this documentary. I forgot what it's called. It just came out. I think it's called Crack or something. It's on
yeah,
Netflix.
I watched it.
Yes.
It's called Crack, and it's on
Yes.
Netflix, and it was amazing. Yes. And it was a really good summary of the history and how the crack epidemic took over,
and the crime bill and all that stuff.
Yeah, and how it's like you get attacked on both sides. So it's like we're going to.
They would have showed that before the election. Holy crap! That's why they made sure to show that after the election.
I really recommend that as well. It's called Crack for everybody. It's on Netflix.
It is. It's insinuating.
Yeah,
it's infuriating. I was like, ugh. When I saw that, I was like, damn, America's really screwed up. They did this on purpose.
Oh yeah.
That's why Jesse Jackson's run for president in '88 was such a big deal, and the lengths that the Democratic Party went to kneecap him should never be forgotten.
Well, I was only 2 when that happened, but I'll take your word for it.
Yes. Well, listen, but there was a senator.
I saw him come speak at when I was at the University of Colorado. Jesse Jackson came because he was running. And he came and he spoke there, and it was really cool. I remember going up to the roof of one of the buildings so that I didn't have to stand behind people and looking down so I could watch it. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, regardless of what your thoughts on him, he's an amazing speaker, and he's Jesse Jackson. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, there was a senator from Vermont named Bernie Sanders who did support Jesse Jackson for president in 1988. So there you go. The last thing I will mention, Isaiah, and you brought it up before, if anybody wants to know what systemic racism really looks like, because everybody has an opinion about what they think racism is, real racism is what Isaiah said earlier. You, as an African-American male, can walk into any college. You want a $200,000 loan for tuition? You can get it. You want a $200,000 loan to buy a home? You're not getting it.
Because you can't default on student loans. You can't declare bankruptcy. You owe them forever. And that's why.
They can decide if you're living in a certain neighborhood. For example, Canarsie and Brownsville are 2 areas in Brooklyn where if you are an African-American, you will be able to live in that neighborhood without a problem. But if you want to move into Greenpoint or into Williamsburg,
you really do know about Brooklyn. You know about Canarsie.
He's from there. Well, he's from there.
I'm from there.
Oh, okay. I know, but still, he know about Canarsie. He know about.
That's where his family's from.
Never will. Okay, I see. So you're not just the Williamsburg and you know, and
my father comes from very humble beginnings.
Okay, so you really, when you said Canarsie and Brown, I was like, man, no, he been there.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
My father's from Canarsie and my grandfather's from Brownsville. So
there you go. There you go.
So when you look at the way that institutional racism is designed, New York City is a great place to look because it's very distinct, and it's like that in Manhattan. It's like that in the Bronx. If anybody doesn't know the history of Grand Concourse, look that up. You know, there's but things are changing in New York. They are.
They are. The last vestiges of this old political machine and corporate machine that's trying to hold on to power.
Yeah.
But I mean, New York is also the most income inequality city in the world. Is right here. The top 1% of New Yorkers own more wealth than the bottom 99% put together. It's ridiculous. There's some crazy stat I saw the other day. And if you look in New York, like the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side, 10 and 12, the congressional districts, Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney are some of the richest in the entire country. And then right above it, 15, where one of our brand new Congress slate mates ran, is the poorest congressional district in the country. So you have the richest and the poorest congressional districts literally touch each other. And there's just a street line that divides them. How the hell did that happen? There has to be some spillover if this is a natural occurrence, or if this is a man-made occurrence. This is that redlining that we talked about. That's why you can literally go from Carolyn Maloney's district to now Richie Torres' district, and the income disparity is hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. How is that possible unless our leaders are doing this on purpose?
And it is on purpose because the highest concentration of wealth in New York City is basically First Avenue to Lexington Avenue between, I believe it's like 67th or something up until I think like 86th Street or something like that. And then you only have to go up about less than 10 blocks and you're in Harlem.
Yeah.
You're in Harlem, which is being gentrified.
Yeah.
Which is being.
It's not an accident, as they say.
No, it's not.
But we are making headway, and we are extremely grateful that you came on the podcast tonight, Isaiah.
Thank you so much for having me and reaching out. I mean,
what
Yes.
are the platforms? But
platform to talk to folks. You know what I mean? Thanks so much for doing that.
Absolutely.
Yep. And we will definitely, I still think we need to get like a big BNC reunion. Like
well, right now we're just trying to promote all our friends who are running and have announced. And so
Yes.
we are in the process of updating our website, where we will also have a link to your website so that people can sign up to help and phone bank.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we're like accumulating a list on our, so that's what we're working on right now.
We're trying to become, you know, the sort of the official progressive hub of South Florida.
Yeah.
There isn't one that exists right now.
Right, we're it. So
we're
Well, my
doing,
family lives down there. My family lives in West Palm Beach, and yeah, my sister lives in Tampa. Yeah, and my mom lives in West Palm Beach. My dad lives in Riviera Beach. So they literally live right there. I know all about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing, unfortunately, there's nothing good to say about
No.
it. But that's, you know, just on, that's a lot of what the old guard corporate wing of the Democratic Party is. She just kind of is the face of it in many ways, but we are changing it, and it is going to happen. And we're extremely grateful that you are running again. So guys, again, it's IsaiahForCongress.com.
check it out, everybody.
Isaiah needs help. He is running in New York's 9th congressional district. That is the heart of Brooklyn, where I'm from. So I have a soft spot for that. And one quick point, Isaiah, I know that there are matching funds in New York. Does that include federal races, or is that only state races?
Oh God, no.
I wish it was this new For the People Act. If that gets passed and into law, you know, then yeah, there will be matching funds. If you raise $50,000 from 1,000 separate candidates, then you will qualify for matching funds on the federal level, which would be amazing. But as it stands right now, no. And I don't think that would ever pass, because then that would mean that all these incumbents can get challenged by more people. Exactly. But so you know, listen. So you know that's never going to pass. What incumbent will say that? Yeah, you can. I raised $50,000 last cycle. Imagine if there were 10 of me to go against somebody. Then no. So we need that. This new For the People Act is supposed to do that. I don't see that getting passed with incumbents who take corporate money. That would nullify corporate money. Then corporations, they're not going to let that pass. So we don't get matching funds, but it would be lovely too. It's only at the state level.
There is no question that the ideas and the momentum is on our side, even if it isn't moving as fast as we'd like I said. And as long as potential representatives like Isaiah are running for office, the change will come, guys. Obviously, it's difficult right now in the middle of COVID.
But imagine if Nina Turner gets in, and then you get in and Nina Turner's there.
Yeah.
I mean, I already said this weeks ago in another interview. I wish Nina Turner would be the new leader of our party.
Because she is. This is not any as I tell everybody.
She's a leader of our party.
Yes, this is no disrespect to AOC.
No. Me and AOC share the same birthday. We're both born October 13th, so we're homies. But Nina Turner is that. She's that Shirley Chisholm.
She's the one.
She is.
She's the voice that we need right now. You know what I mean? She's because you said the left were disparate. We can everything she funnels out of her mouth is like I can't find anything to disagree with her with. So, and the thing she fights for is just the things that we need on just a basic level. So I would love for Nina Turner to get in to be the face of the party. I'd love it.
We would love to have you in Congress.
Yes, we would. So everybody reach out, volunteer, donate.
Keep the conversation going.
And we'll have you back on, I'm sure, before your race.
Oh, yeah. My race is until June 2022. But
I know.
Yeah, we're starting. Yeah, you know.
I do.
We're starting early now. Now we're starting raising funds now because we're not going to make the same mistake as last time. And the pandemic hit. It scared everybody last time. Yeah. Now people know how to live within the pandemic for the most part. So now we can go back out and talk to people. We can raise those funds and get out in the community safely, but we can do those things that grassroots campaigns need to do. So that's why we're starting right now in February as opposed to later this year.
And don't forget, New York has a lot of municipal races coming up in June. So
everybody vote for.
Definitely get involved. And Isaiah will let you know all about the progressive candidates who are running in New York City, especially in Brooklyn. Again, Mel Gagarin's wife, Alita. She is running for city council. He was also a member of the brand new Congress slate. Lindsey Boylan running for Manhattan Borough President. Of course, Diana Morales, who is running for the mayor of New York City. And obviously, Isaiah James.
Everybody vote for
running
Isaiah.
for New York 9th Congressional District. Where Brooklyn at? He's right there.
Thank you so much, Isaiah.
Jen, I wanted to let folks know because I saw some of the comments were saying, "Am I a teacher?" My wife's a teacher. They can read the comments
earlier. Yeah, no, Isaiah saying that if you didn't come on early, his wife is a first grade teacher, and since the pandemic, she's teaching from home. So that's her virtual classroom is in his house. So
well, I think it's a wonderful background. I think
he's
really
in his house
nice.
in his wife's classroom. It's so cute.
1000%.
All right, thank you, Isaiah, so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Have a great night. We'll talk.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.